Next we got Shohei Ohtani injures his shoulder in the World Series. Now, we just reacted to the game. If you haven't seen that, it's on my channel right now. And I'm literally sick to my stomach that this happened. All right. Now, Ohtani obviously is the greatest player to ever touch a baseball diamond. And for him to get hurt in the World Series when everything matters, that hurts me. Okay, I'm his number one fan. That hurts me. So we're gonna see what's going on. Hopefully he can come back. Hopefully it's not like nothing too serious. All right, maybe he was just out for the rest of the game. That's what I'm hoping, bro. All right, so we're gonna see. We'll see further updates. So yeah, hit the like button, hit that sub button.
Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani suffered a left arm injury while trying to steal second here in Game 2 of the World Series.
Also, too, is my boy Brian Stutter. Hit that sub button.
We're going to break this down frame by frame to talk about what exactly I think happened and what the implications could be for the rest of the World Series. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Suter, and my goal on this channel is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. I think this is actually the first baseball injury that we've covered this whole year, so what better time than the World Series to introduce a little bit of baseball content to the channel talking about Shohei Ohtani. Now, when he came off the field, he seemed to be holding...
And this is another thing, too, bro. First of all, first things first. Whenever somebody slides to second base, they're usually sliding head first. All right? That's number one. So, he did the wrong slide animation. Okay? The slide animation he did, this is like a slide animation you do when you know you're about to be safe. When you know it. And you just slide anyway. You just do like a little quick slide cancel. You know what I'm saying? Call of Duty players, y'all know what I'm talking about. Quick little slide cancel. You know what I'm saying? Get back up. Pop right back up. But sliding like this on second base, nah. And then another thing too, I don't think people usually slide and then put all of their pressure, all of their force on their hand or their whole arm. It's like he basically just fell down and he just put his arm on the ground and fell on his arm. That's basically what he did. All his force, all his weight.
Talking about Shohei Ohtani. Now, when he came off the field, he seemed to be holding his left arm. We've gotten some reporting about a concern for a left shoulder injury, and even some mention from the Japanese media outlets about question whether or not the shoulder popped out. And I think looking at this replay, a shoulder joint dislocation or subluxation would certainly be a possibility given the injury mechanism. As Ohtani is sliding in a second, he puts that left arm down to help brace his fall. The problem is he puts an excessive amount of force down through that arm, and so there's going to be this ground reaction force where his weight coming down equal and opposite forces. If you remember your physics from high school, that's going to push back up into the arm, and that energy is going to be translated all the way up, ultimately into his shoulder joint.
I actually did not even, I would say I didn't know it, but I forgot. Okay? Okay. So when you put force down, it goes back up. Wow. That's crazy. Okay. Now it's really just helping me with, because I be working out, obviously y'all can tell. So I have to know the science behind the body. You feel me? So this is actually like, bro, shout out to Brian, bro. Shout out to my boy. He's literally teaching me stuff.
Into the arm, and that energy is going to be translated all the way up, ultimately into his shoulder joint. So then as he continues to slide through, this position right here is really the key position that is going to potentially lead to a shoulder joint dislocation or subluxation. In this position, Ohtani's left arm is a little bit back behind him, right? So it's extended kind of back off in this direction as he's putting load on it from the ground, pushing back up.
Wow.
What this is going to do is it's going to put a force up at the glenohumeral joint of the shoulder that's going to make his shoulder want to push forward anterior relative to the socket. We see this in positions when athletes, football players go down and they put that arm out and it gets caught up behind them, or they get torqued in that back awkward position. Fernando Tatis Jr., when he swung in the bat, follow through, called that shoulder to shift. that would cause that force through the glenohumeral joint, potentially leading to an injury of that joint. Yeah, there's some other things in this position, of course. This is almost like a foosh, a fall on an outstretched hand. Where you could have something like a wrist fracture, radial head fracture at the elbow. But hearing the initial reports of the shoulder, that's what we're going to go off of. Now, if we look at our biodigital anatomy tool here, let's point out some of that various anatomy. So we're going to have the humerus, which is the arm bone up top. We're then going to have the scapula. The glenohumeral joint is right up here where that scapula and the humeral head meet. So it's very flat. The scapula is a very flat joint where the glenoid is located. Think of like a golf tee with a golf ball for the humeral head. And then all the way around that glenoid rim is going to be a ring of cartilage called the labrum. Whenever you're in this position, that humeral head wants to shear forward relative to the underlying scapula, the glenoid. That's going to almost always cause tearing in the labrum, bone bruising, and something called a Bankard deformity or a Hill-Sachs, where you get a depression, little impaction fracture on the outer part of the humeral head. A subluxation is when the ball barely comes out of the socket but goes back in, so it's kind of resting on the edge but then pops back in on its own, versus a true dislocation is going to be when that ball comes completely out of the socket and somebody has to manually reduce it to put it back in place. I will say the way Ohtani is holding his arm is very classic for when somebody has had a shoulder dislocation or a subluxation. We have no idea in this position if his shoulder is dislocated or not, and I think that plays at least some role in his availability for the rest of the World Series if we presume glenohumeral joint shoulder subluxation / dislocation. A quick mention, a shoulder separation is a totally different area. A shoulder separation is going to be up here at the AC joint, the acromioclavicular joint. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a shoulder subluxation here at the glenohumeral joint. So then back to this. Overall prognosis here depends a lot, I think, on whether or not the shoulder actually came all the way out of socket. If the shoulder came all the way out of socket, there's going to be a lot more pain, especially if this was a first-time dislocation of it.
You know what's crazy? It's not even funny, but me playing football growing up, I think that's actually why my shoulders are like so crunchy and like just like not good. Is because number one, I think it initially really happened because I was playing baseball, and the cool thing to do in baseball, especially growing up, y'all know, all the baseball players, is throwing the ball as hard as you can. Who could throw the ball the hardest? That's you know what I'm saying? That's like the cool thing to do. But my coaches never taught me the correct way to do it. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get taught the correct way to throw the ball, so you don't injure yourself. No matter how old you are, you still need to know how to throw the ball. Because you might get lazy in your technique, trying to throw the ball, and that's one time your shoulder. So that's what I was doing. And I was playing outfield too. So I remember I was in left outfield. And they used to hit the ball from like around the first base, hit the ball to me, catch it, and I had to throw it all the way to first base. You know what I'm saying? Trying to use all my force, and I know I messed my arm up because I was doing that over and over and over and over. And then on top of that, I played football. So way before I was doing that little outfield thing, I was playing football. And I would dislocate my shoulder just from trying to hit somebody super hard, shoulder pop out. And I remember I put my shoulder back into place in the game, like mid game. I wouldn't even come out the game. I didn't even know I dislocated my shoulder. I didn't even know that's what happened. I thought I don't know what I thought it was. I was a kid, so I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what happened. So and then I was like, okay, I'm straight, and then I just kept playing. You know what I'm saying? I did that about 2-3 times. I ain't gonna lie. I never knew until I got older. I'm like, dang, that's what happens when you dislocate your shoulder? And then that's why I say pop back in place. That's what I was doing. I was popping my shoulder back in place as a kid, bro. This is crazy. This is so crazy. So it makes sense, like, why my shoulders was so trash. But hopefully he didn't dislocate it, bro.
So then back to this. Overall prognosis here depends a lot, I think, on whether or not the shoulder actually came all the way out of socket. If the shoulder came all the way out of socket, there's going to be a lot more pain, especially if this was a first-time dislocation episode for Ohtani. They're going to manually reduce it. In and of itself, that would not be a reason where you have to be withheld from sports. But it's all going to come down to function. This is his left side. Thankfully, it's not his pitching, his throwing side. If that even really, like I said, doesn't matter this year. It's going to be good long term because you don't want to have a shoulder or labrum injury on your throwing side. So really, if this is a shoulder dislocation, it's going to be a lot more about his pain level and his function. You assume the labrum is torn. You just hope there's nothing like a rotator cuff tear. That would be something that he would be out for. But assuming it's just a run-of-the-mill shoulder dislocation, it really just comes down to how bad your pain is. If the shoulder completely came out, I think his pain and function is probably going to be tough. Again, he's swinging a bat, so that's very different than trying to play wide receiver in football. Every sport's going to be different. So I don't think we've seen enough to say he's ruled out for the rest of the World Series. If further imaging shows something like a fracture or something like a rotator cuff tear, then yeah, that's a different story. But if all that's normal and this is just a shoulder dislocation, subluxation with a labrum tear, there's at least a chance that if his pain and function can get under control, we'll see him back for the rest of the World Series.
Pray to God he can come back, bro. Let me know in the comments. Do y'all think that he will come back? Hopefully, bro. All right. I love y'all. We good.